We'll start over here. So, Marissa, this is your portrait?
Yes.
Okay. And we have Nicolette's portrait? Beautiful. Okay, and so just as a reminder, Nicolette, you're going to be a G2 next year?
Yes.
Just finished your first year?
Yep.
Okay. And Marissa's going into her first year.
What do you get when you put Harvard PhDs in a room together and ask them to create? This was the question that inspired me as I set out to look for opportunities to facilitate creative thinking. The goal was to take these non-designers outside of their comfort zones and equip and empower them to work together to generate ideas that might answer the question of how cultures of community can scale and catch fire to change what is often a stifling and toxic culture for PhD students at Harvard. In light of that, I decided to measure myself against outcomes such as the ability to create great and actionable ideas related to the topic, as well as the extent to which my participants would come out of the activity feeling like they had a robust toolkit and a new way of thinking about problems related to their studies and research. I selected 8 participants from different disciplines and tenures within their careers, students who I felt could really make some magic happen. In order to prepare my participants for the visual storytelling activity, I designed a warm-up activity that would encourage lateral thinking and push participants' comfort zones in ways that would help them work more constructively and creatively with one another. In this warm-up activity, participants work in pairs to create a collaborative portrait. They each add to the image using one simple shape or form at a time and fundamentally changing the very image itself each time until they can no longer add to it. Everyone had a lot of fun with this activity, and we debriefed afterwards to share the drawings that each pair had come up with. I also took some time to jot down reflections and learnings from the warm-up activity, which were beneficial in helping me plan out how to facilitate my visual storytelling activity in the following weeks. The visual storytelling activity itself was an amalgam of 5 activities that were thoughtfully strung together to achieve the effects of lateral thinking as taught by our course readings and by other resources in the field. Let's take a look at how each of these worked together and what came out of the session. Following another warm-up activity, similar to the initial activity from weeks before, I asked participants to work in pairs to create self-portraits of themselves with mixed media, illustrating the future vision of where they see themselves in their PhD careers in 5 years. I then asked participants to work individually and generate as many "wouldn't it be nice if" statements on post-it notes as possible, as a way of identifying roadblocks that might stand between where they are today and in the future vision of themselves in 3 years. We then came together as a group to bucket and categorize our "wouldn't it be nice if" statements in order to identify common themes in each student's life. This gave us a place to focus on in terms of where to look for levers that can help create communities of culture and community. The group then settled on discussing safe and open sharing as a theme. It was this theme that led us to a tremendous finish to the session with 2 activities, the first of which involved participants as a group throwing out initial ideas to empty their boxes, so to speak, of ways to solve some of the safe and open sharing roadblocks that we identified. I then challenged the students by asking them to articulate assumptions that informed the initial ideas that they suggested. Finally, we reversed these assumptions, and in follow-up interviews and surveys, I asked participants to generate truly out-of-the-box ideas based on these reversed assumptions and totally upended their way of thinking about the communities and the environments that they work in. Students came up with some really creative ideas at this point. For instance, Nicolette reflected on how she could find ways to help people more informally share their successes and failures with one another, while Nathan thought more about how to explicitly create groups that could be designed to address these cultural factors. So, what did the participants think of the session? Through a digital survey and follow-up interviews, I asked if they felt like they came away with great and actionable ideas from the activity, as well as the toolkits to be able to implement those ideas. I received a lot of good feedback, praise, and constructive criticism that I was able to incorporate into my personal reflection and distill down to several key takeaways. I'll let one of the participants, Marissa, speak so you can hear some of the feedback.
I actually recently reached out to my cohort for my PhD, which is starting next year, and it's been really nice to be able to get to know each other out of the context of what our academic achievements are. And it's been nice to kind of connect one another based on our hobbies, based on our interests, where we're coming from, and I think this is really going to create social bonds and make us all enjoy our experience at the PhD more. And I was motivated to think of this idea to reach out to everyone because of the activity that you ran, Alex. So I really want to thank you for it. It came at a perfect time.
Overall, the majority of the objectives were partially or entirely achieved, and in every way it was a tremendous learning experience in that it helped me to grow as a facilitator and to really think about what areas I can best improve on in the future. The activity resulted in lots of new creative ideas for the participants, including creative approaches to recognizing progress and achievement beyond the simple dissertation measure, and even redefining what it means to be part of a class cohort altogether. As a facilitator, I feel incredibly invested in the future success of these PhD students based on the new tools and ideas that they have, and I'm thrilled to see what else they create.